Hey y'all, Gavin here. This weekend I got first place at my local World Celebration tournament, and I took Yummy. I've actually been, since I haven't been uploading, playtesting all three of the new decks. I didn't want to really show anything off until I started doing okay-ish or well-ish with them. And I've been playing Cup C for the least amount of time, or Yummy, and this deck's crazy. This deck has an advantage over the other ones where you can always play. Even though it doesn't have the highest ceiling, you can just always make sure that you can do the minimum with it, and your minimum is so much better in the other decks. So yeah, let's hop right into it, and I'll explain how I play this and what I play throughout the profile. So we have triple Cupsy, triple Cookie, and triple Lollipo. You want to max out on all the names. So basically, if you see any one of these, you can always play. Opening two of these isn't usually the best, but of course you want to maximize because you want to have the most amount of starters. So usually just having one of these, one of the extenders, and multiple hand traps is the best hand this deck can open. So yeah, if you don't know what these cards do, Cupsy when special summon searches, but if it's special summoned off of a Synchro, you can also just draw a card instead. Cookie when special summoned lures a monster's attack by 1,000, but if it's special summoned off of a Synchro, it pops a card. And then Lollipo, whenever it's special summoned, shuffles a card from the graveyard back into the deck. And then if it's special summoned off of a Synchro, it banishes it instead. These were all good all weekend. This card in particular is really good against Draco Tail. This card is just solid removal. And this card just giving you a random draw, meaning that you can always just have more, and giving you more ways into surprise or one of the field spells is fantastic. So yeah, that's all of the Yummy names. And then here's all the hand traps. You have triple Fubulos, triple Veiler, triple Ash, double Bell, double Ogre, triple Imperm, and triple Purge. So I know this looks like a lot, right? Like back in the day, if you played this many, you're not going to be able to play the game. But in this deck in particular, let me change this around so we have a better view. This is okay, right? Because these cards are also starters, technically. So let's hop into each single one individually and talk about what they're used for, why they're good, and why you play them. So first of all, we have triple Fubulos. This is the best going second card in the game. Make sure that you're able to draw when your opponent plays, and if you're into Yummy Mirror, it makes sure that they just minimize what they do. So this card is fantastic. Also, if you go second with it, or first, sorry, this card's all right because you can normal summon it if you have a name. Normal summon out Fubulos, and then let's say you have Lollipo. Turn this into Almirage, and now this is an extender for full combo. So that's really, really good. Then we have triple Veiler. A lot of people think that cards like Veiler and Imperm are bad because of them being able to bounce out through Vanquishal, which is true, but half the time, right, they don't actually have the name. So in Vanquishal, what they're trying to do is they're trying to minimize the names. So by them doing that, they're playing less Caesar, less Borger. The odds of them having one of them to bounce out is really low. So if you just hit Rosin, half the time, their hand is just turned off. Next is triple Ash. This is so that you can hit your opponent's Tremmies. If they hit you with Perulia, half the time you just let it happen. And then if it's Fubulos, you can just Ash it and you can do the full double Herald combo. Double Bell. Bell is for the mirror. It's also pretty good into Draco Tail because you can just let them end on the full board. A spoiler alert against Draco Tail, you can just let them go first. Because if you see any of these, you're fine. Because you can just Ash or Bell their traps. You can also purge the traps. Double Ogre. Ogre seems like it's the weirdest one. But Ogre is really good against the mirror with the field spells. It's also pretty good randomly into decks like Vanquishal because you can just hit the field spell and keep them off the trap, which is low-key one of the only things you care about. Triple Purge. This card's pretty expensive right now. We'll probably go down after the tins, but I will say this card is basically needed. It's just another Ash. Of course, it makes your Draco Tail matchup just a little bit easier. It gives you just better all-around matchups. It gives you less searches, and is also basically just a Gamma if you have Infip Engrave. So Infip has the exact same sense as Veiler. You just can't normal summon it, which makes it a little worse. But being able to go second with it is fantastic. You can draw it for turn, hit a problematic card, and the way that pairs with Purge, where if you don't know, Purge basically says if a card is searchable, right? Like it's a worse Ash in that sense where it only hits cards that searches. But if you have a Trap Engrave, it destroys the card, which is very, very important. So yeah, that's all the hand traps. That's all the explanations. And yeah, usually the ones you side out most are like Bell and Ogre. Or of course, if you're going first, it's Fufalos. But they're still not awful to draw. Next, let's go into the spells. 1 minion, 1 Akruki. These cards are the most least understood cards I've seen in the deck, right? So whenever I play the Mirror, when these decks first came out and people were saying you just play 1 minion or double minion, I think that's incorrect, especially since a lot of people are moving to the card Nib. So half the times, if you like have a really good hand, which is if you're going first, you have 2 names, or you have an extender plus a name, there's no reason to go for minion because this card's just greedy. This card plays harder into Ogre. This card plays harder into every single card in the game. Femina, Ogre, Nib, Bell. Even though it doesn't really matter, that's the problem, is that this card doesn't matter. The only card that really, well, the only piece of text that matters on this card is, well, the attack gain, which you don't need going first. But if you set it up going first and they like do the plan of SP banish this, you're dead in the water. That's why Akruki is really good. Going first, if you open up Obedience School, or of course 2 names, you never lose if you have Akruki. Another really important thing is, let's just hop into it right now. We play Triple Engage and Hornet Drones. And the reason why this is good is because the Hornet Drones token cannot be tributed. So if you open up this plus a name, you can basically just keep the token there, activate Akruki, do the full combo, and you're going to keep playing until you do the Martial Metal Marcher. And you're going to try to synchro with the Hornet Drones token and the Martial Metal Marcher into Herald. If they nib you there, it's fine. You keep the drones, and then you summon off of Akruki, and then you're able to do the rest of your combo, and you just go into the Star Ham, and you set up for next turn. So Akruki just makes sure that you never lose. And then Minion is for the crackback, and you just swing and kill him. In my testing, at least, it's just better to play it safe. If you disagree with that, that's fine. I just don't think Minion is as needed as people think. Minion's only really coming up if you're only playing off of 1 card. And that's just a YouTube combo at that point. Triple Obedience School. This card should not exist in this deck. This makes this deck unbeatable. If this card resolves and you're playing against someone who knows how to play the deck, they are setting up a board that can never be cracked. They're never losing to Imperm. They're never losing to Valor. They're never losing to Nib. They're beating everything. And yeah, this card is just ridiculous. There's nothing much to say there. Then the rest of the package, surprise, in your 1-card combo, you're using this basically twice. So you basically are playing 3, which I think is fine. This card is really, really good. I use the special summon effect more than anything. The bounce never really comes up, and then the return 1 field spell doesn't really come up either. But of course, this card having infinite utility is crazy. If you have 2 of these, you win the game. And then the last of the engine is Pot of Prosperity. Low-key, I don't even think this card is needed. This card's really good. I guess it's like the last starter to make sure this deck can just always play. But yeah, most of the times this card is just rotting in my hand, or I don't need it. And I don't ever want to banish 6 off of it, so it's only usually banishing 3 unless I'm in a really tight spot. But if I'm ever playing against this deck and I see my opponent banish 6, I'm ashing it 100% of the time because it usually means they have no place. So yeah, that's the main deck. Next, let's go on to the extra. Triple Snatchy. This is one of the craziest Link ones ever printed. You usually want to set up with 2 on your end board, or at least 1 in your graveyard, 1 in the field. This card is disgusting. You're just never losing to hand traps once it hits the board. If you know how to play this deck properly, this card is just fantastic. 1 Almirage, 1 Kagari, and these are all the Link ones. I've seen a lot of people talk about Link Spider, but if you're playing this deck properly, you're never losing to Nib anyway, so you don't ever need the Link Spider. There's been maybe 1 time Link Spider came up, but the reason it came up was because I messed up. Once you realize that like there's better ways to play around it so you don't need the extra deck space, I think that's usually like a sign that a card's not needed. But these 2 are fantastic, I will say. Kagari, fantastic card. It being a Link 1 that you can always link off with is also crazy. No Inari. This is how you can tell someone's good with this deck, is how they utilize it. It being able to pop cards, it being able to reset surprise. It gives you infinite grind game. Low key, there are times I wish I had a second one of these because it comes up so much. This actually also lets you kill going second so much easier. Fantastic card, and it beats all your lose cons. So this is also part of the God board. Super Piss Knight. This card comes up sometimes. I don't really think it's ever super needed. There are times where this card comes up and like I'm using it to bait my opponent. But other than that, it doesn't really come up, I will say. But, you know, it being able to be paired with Obedience Gold is also really funny. If you know, you know. And that should be all the links. Next are the Synchros. Lollipo, Cupsy, and Cookie. These cards are crazy. Lollipo by itself is also one of the craziest cards I've ever read. I've seen a lot of people talk about this deck, but I've never really seen anybody talk about how broken Lollipo is. Lollipo just being Soul Charge and being able to give you so much combo potential. The infinite bodies this deck can just produce makes it just feel so much crazier than it actually is. Because half the time, like the issue with this deck is, it's funny how Yummy works because it does so much, but yet it actually doesn't do a lot. But what Lollipo does is that this with the Crookie, it just feels nuts because you're just printing infinite bodies and just popping stuff. Being able to loop this card, I feel, just leads to this deck being so crazy. Cupsy is also crazy too because this deck doesn't really lose to Ash. So there's a lot of times you can bait with this card. And Cookie just being a crazy disruption into most of the meta right now. Not too good in Draco Tail, but it is fantastic into K9. And also into a bunch of random rogue. So Cookie just gives you crazy matchups. Other Synchros. Martial Metal Marcher, this card is the MVP. Next to the Starham. Starham has been summoned in every match I played this deck. This is probably the best card in the extra deck for no reason. The fact that like you don't have a lot of discard outlets, but you also have infinite non-engine. So you can just like send cards from your hand that are redundant to the graveyard. And you have like infinite cards that you're adding to your hand because of Cupsy. Fantastic card. I saw people playing this deck without this, and after playing this deck for the past week, I'm very glad it's in my list. Double Herald of Arclight. I've seen some people talk about only playing one, and I actually had an opponent who was kind of tilted I was playing two, because the second one did come up. I don't know why they would be angry. This card is crazy, and honestly, the second one does come up more than I thought it would. You're never really resolving the Double Herald combo, I'll be real with you. But being able to Herald on the first turn and then Herald on the next for follow-up is really, really good. Especially in the Draco Tail too. Like people keep talking about how this deck has like an abysmal Draco Tail matchup, but if you just end on this, like you have to lay a win. You also have like infinite space in here. Like half of these cards in here I just never go into half the time. Other than the Starhand. And because we have so much space, I'm playing Typhon. Typhon is also really good. I see people not really knowing how to utilize this card. Basically, the reason why Typhon is broken in a deck like this is because you have so much non-engine. Does it conflict with Purge? Yes, but it doesn't matter. If you just have infinite hand traps, you just go into this, you can like out a Zeus, which a lot of Vanquishable Canine players see as their win con against you. So, yeah, card's crazy, card's nuts. I really like it. It hasn't come up too much, but of course, since I don't use half my extra deck, this card's all right. That is the extra, and onto the side deck. Triple Perulia, triple Meows. Meows is pretty controversial, I've been noticing. I saw this in the Sean Pittman list. Shout out to him. So Meows is really good because not only does it have coverage into Malice, it has coverage into the Mirror. So into the Mirror, instead of siding in Perulia going second, you side in Meows, and you hold it for your turn. So you can just infinitely draw into the cards that are good against them. And just being able to keep drawing in a Mirror is fantastic. Perulia is good in the Canine decks. And you don't want to main these, obviously, because most of the meta can just ignore it. Like if your locals are just full of Yummy, why would you main Perulia? Like Perulia is really good against Vanquishable Canine, and Vanquishable Canine's a good deck. But you don't lose to that deck. Like that is this deck's freest matchup. So the side felt good for it. Like this card was underperforming for me a lot at locals, and I was wondering what was wrong with my deck list for the last couple of weeks. It was this card. Like this card is just a side deck card only. And Meows just feels better than Lancia in the most matchups. Like people are talking about how you want to play Lancia for decks like Christian and for decks like Malice. I don't really want to respect both of those decks, right? Because this deck's freest matchup is basically the Canine decks. And I don't know. I just don't think Lancea is that impactful, especially against Crystron. Metaltronus. This card is broken. So what Metaltronus does is that if you're playing into the Yummy Mare, you can just bait out all their stuff, and then when they try to snatch you with the last one, you just hit them with Metaltronus, and you win the game on the spot. Not much to say. It's also a free extender into the deck, so now you have a Snatchy that you can start playing with. Really, really good card. I'm a big fan of this card. Any deck I can play this in, I just always wrote in. So, very good. I can see this card being the one I get rid of for future siding, but as the meta is going to probably become more yummy after Dude, this card's probably a mainstay. One call by, one triple tax. They're just free going first cards. Not much to say. You don't want to see them in your main deck going second. That's too greedy to main, in my opinion. I'd rather play cards that are like more consistent, cards that always let me play, than these. But these cards going first are insane. And speaking of going first, here's the rest of the going first suite. I've seen a lot of people playing Judgment over Warning. I can see that. There's just a lot of Canine Vanquishal in my area, and they're also really good, and they know that they can just burn me to death. So I'd rather just play a card like Warning, which stops them from playing with cards like Holy Sue, than a card like Judgment. And Revelry of Warlords just locks him into place. And yeah, this is my Worlds winning deck list. I didn't actually win Worlds, but my World Celebration. Honestly, this deck was really fun. If you want to hear more strategy and theory about this deck, I'm always down to talk about it. Please let me know in the comment section down below. I love talking about this deck, and it has honestly been one of my favorites out of the new deck build pack. It's not my favorite though. I will make a deck profile on that deck in the future. But yeah, let me know what more things you guys would want to see in the future. Any comments, questions, concerns on the deck, and anything upcoming in the future, like cards from Dude. But with that all being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for all the support, and I'll see you guys next time.